have as many kids as you possibly can, manufacture them like a factory. Because the true happiness comes when you see the fruits of your labor.
Okay.
Think about it. If you have one child in the marriage or 2 children, alhamdulillah, that's an accomplishment in of itself, and you've done very well. But no one can tell me that's better than having 10 and having a whole ummah. Imagine you're laughing.
10 children.
I'm not laughing. Listen. No one can challenge me on this one. Not a single person can challenge me on this one. If you have 10 children, now you're 60, 70 years old, and you look down at Eid, and it's literally an ummah of 10 mans with their husband and wife, and their 10 children each, 100 people. You cannot tell me there is satisfaction that you did something. I don't care what you say. And that's something everyone can achieve, rich or poor. That is your contribution to the ummah. At the very least, you fulfilled what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has asked for, which is the largest of ummah. They can compete with the other ummah. At the very least, no one could tell me that. And and you can say, even as a backup, imagine it doesn't go as to plan. At least 1 or 2 of the kids might care for you.
out of the 10. It's okay. What's that? 20% ratio, 20% success rate. May Allah grant us the very best.
You've literally distributed your care when you're old and you can't move to 10 separate people. They don't have to be there all the time.
That's true.
Some can just do something. You've lightened the load off of them through your effort. I'm telling you, if you invest in your children, that is the greatest investment for a marriage. That is the best thing you can do for marriage. Forget the money. Money's great. Money's important. Money is very important. But I don't think it's more important than children. Hence why Allah said, لا تقتلوا أولادكم خشية إملاق نحن نرزقكم وإياهم. Don't kill your children out of fear of poverty. We'll provide for you and them. And another ayah, we provide for them and you. So Allah is clearly saying to you, money is not a factor when it comes to children. If you bring it as a factor, you're missing the point. Allah will provide for you. Allah will bring it forward for you. Just do your bit. Marriage, children, have an obscene amount of children.
Wow.
up until literally medically you can't even do it
until
anymore.
You can no more.
And then you say, Alhamdulillah, I've done my bit.
I've done
now
something.
You can do the honeymoon thing, and you can relax with your husband and go holidays when you're in your 50s and 60s and whatnot. But before that, you have a job to do. I know it's the people don't want to hear that, and there's 2 or 3 kids, but no. I mean, come on, it's never been that way. I mean, your grandparents, how many kids did they have? I'm sure they had like more than 5. Everyone has grandparents, great grandparents. My grandmother was one of 12.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Obviously, I'm just it's not really. See, the thing is, it's not really worthy of the gram. You know, it's not a flex. You know what I mean?
Now listen, everyone's always talking about. Let's stick to the way of the Salaf.
Oh, you pulled the Salaf card. Oh, done.
Everyone's Salafi up until that moment. Everyone's Salafi up until it comes to the number of kids. No, be Salafi even the number of children you have. How many kids they have? A whole heap.
As many as possible. Okay, so how about this? Polygamy. 1 wife, 2 wives, 3 wives, 4 wives. Spread the 10 kids amongst them. You know, so each one's got like maybe 3 each, and then now we've got like 12. Is that also an efficient strategy, or no?
If someone is interested in polygamy and they can handle that, and when I say handle that, I don't mean just financially, even emotionally and whatnot, then I think a good strategy would be maybe to have 8 to 10 each.
That's your ummah. That's your work done.
No. Reason why I say that is because, like I said, it's not, again, if you said spread it out, then that's looking at it as what he wants. How about what she wants? And when I say what she wants, I don't mean what she wants now, because if I said to a woman, you're going to carry a child for 9 months, you're going to go through labor, you're going to suckle that child for up to 2 years, change nappy, and you're going to do that 9 times. I'm sure no one will say, yeah, sign me up. let's do this.
No.
It's not that kind of thing. But that's the thing. That's not how Muslims think. We don't think, oh, because it's difficult, we don't do it. We need to start thinking of, because it's difficult, maybe there's a reason why it's difficult. Maybe there's a great reward in doing that. It's often that the things that reward you the most are that which is most difficult. So I'm telling you, I cannot imagine, and no one can challenge me in this one. No one can challenge me in this one at all. They can challenge me in other things, but they can't challenge me in this one. No one could tell me if a woman had sabr 9 times with 9 kids, that after they have now grown up and they love her and they respect her and they give her all that she needs, she's gonna ever regret that. Never, ever, ever.
That's
true. Challenge me in that one.
No, that's true. I agree with you. I would probably.
We come to Islam. Islam is about delayed gratification. You delay the gratification, the reward later on. I mean, what is Jannah? Jannah is about delayed gratification. We're working our whole lives for a reward. Not only haven't even seen, no one's seen it before, but we know it's there. We know it's coming. We just wait, have sabr. Same thing with children. You struggle. It's difficult. You got to pay for them, education, all the kind of stuff. But eventually, it will pay off.
Yeah,
and no one can challenge me in that one.
No. I think definitely if you press anybody and you look at it with that long-term view, for sure, like there is nothing else at the end of everything. You know, all the work, the career, the degrees, the social media, the friends, and all of that. In the end, when you're 60, 70, 80, it's really your family that brings you joy, isn't it? Your family, seeing your children grow up, seeing them pair up, seeing them have their own children. That is where the joy is.
That is the retirement. People talk about retirement and this fund and that fund and this company are going to give me retirement. No. Your retirement is your children. If people don't recognize that your retirement is your children, they've missed the point. Anyone who thinks that their retirement is their retirement fund, not their children, they have lost the plot, they have missed the message, and they're going to find out at some point. We need to start changing our perspective, changing our frame. It's not what I want to give you, it's what you want me to give you. And part of that discovery is part of that marriage, learning who they are, learning what they like, and trying to give them what they like. Even if it's something that you don't like, let's learn to give them what they like. You know? For example, one quick example. Imagine you like meatballs and eggs, and imagine he likes biryani, and you have a choice today to make meatballs or egg or biryani. A marriage decision would be like, I'm gonna make this for him because I know he likes it. That's a decision that one could make. That is not for your own benefit, but for his benefit.
Which benefits you in the end.
Which benefits you in the end. Or likewise, it's a win-win. A husband. He can, after work, meet his mates and chill out for a couple of hours, or come straight home to his wife and chill out with her. He knows which one she would prefer. He can make a decision today. I'm not only gonna go home, rather than go to my friend's house. I'm gonna buy something nice for her as well. Why am I doing that? Because she likes it, not because I like it. Because she likes it. And the joke is, when she is happy and elated and over the moon, you be elated and over the moon, because that is essentially the indirect reward you get. When your wife is happy, you're happy. When she's sad, you're sad.
And vice versa. Do you think it's vice versa, or do you believe in happy wife, happy life?
I mean, I do. I in some ways, I do understand what Laura Dora was saying, because she was saying that if the wife is happy in the house, that would infect everyone else with happiness.
I agree with that.
Whereas if she's upset, she would infect everyone else with her bitterness. I mean, it's possible that she'd be really happy and elated and the house is still in a mess, upset. It's possible, but generally speaking, I think men are very simple and fickle. If she's happy, he'll be over the moon. That's just if he's happy, peaceful house, he's happy. There's nothing more. That's how I am. I'm sure how most men are. I don't think it's much different than that. But I guess the question is, okay, how does she get happy? And that's kind of what Laura Dale was trying to say. She was saying that these are things you can do to make yourself happy. And then when you are happy, that would affect the situation. From those things you mentioned is self-care, looking after yourself, finding happiness in your environment and what's around you and whatnot. I mean, there are many things that can be said. But yeah, I mean, that's to say that one needs to change their frame and start looking at what others want. And that's it. Simple as what their desires are, innit?
SubhanAllah. As you're saying this, I'm thinking of I'm uncomfortable. Sounds crazy. I'm uncomfortable with happy wife, happy life, if it's at the expense of the man. And again, this is very much a red pill conversation, right? Where the whole kind of beta male providers, betatization by 1,000 cuts or 1,000 concessions, where the man basically breaks himself down in order to raise up the woman and to please her, to the detriment of himself. So he gives up his hobbies, gives up his friends, works like a dog, puts up with, dead bedroom, all of that stuff, as long as she's happy. Do you think that that's a legitimate complaint, or do you think, look, just suck it up, this is marriage, that's it?
No, it is, again, it's down to framing, number one. And like I said, certain situations can be framed in so many different ways.
For sure, agreed.
And how you view your behavior can change how you feel about the outcome. 100%. So, I'll give you an example, and give an extreme example. So, a man is on the street, and some woman's raising her voice at him, swearing at him, spitting at him, being all obnoxious, whatnot. He has the full power to give her a punch right in her nose and end the whole discussion. And he decides, you know what? I'm not gonna go down that route. I'm not gonna drag myself down to her level. I'm gonna just keep on walking and not entertain that conversation. Okay. Now he could walk away from that and think, you know what, that was so beta. How can I let her talk to me like that? I mean, who am I? I mean, am I some kind of simp? Am I some kind of punk that let this woman just treat me this way? And that will make him depressed for what he did. Whereas he can frame it differently. Say, look, alhamdulillah, I know the hadith and message of Allah, the one who controls his anger is the greater person, and all that kind of stuff. Then reward for the one who turns away from an argument, even though he was correct, and see himself as the better person and walk away happy. His actions didn't change. His action had not changed, but his framing of the action completely changed.
Right.
Now, I say that whilst acknowledging that what you mentioned is true. I've seen with my own two eyes destroyed men.
Wow. I mean, destroyed men, and then he laughs. What is this? What's happening here?
As in, and there was one scenario, a sister and her husband came to our center for enrollment to enroll their child. This happened long time ago, so I'm like, I mentioned it because it not happened recently. It happened like almost a decade ago. And everything I was saying, if I was talking, she was answering, she was talking, everything. I saw him, seeing his face, almost like
that expression,
that destruction of that complete emasculation of his like. I said, bro, are you happy? And like, almost as if to say, when I ask him, are you happy? She's answering for him. That kind of complete dominance,
right,
and that complete collapse of that maleness that can happen. That can definitely happen. And I do feel that if a man is in that state, then he should find a way to get out of it. Because what will happen is that will be destructive for him in the end. And also the family. Meaning, if a man continues in that state... Sorry, let me frame it from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning. Why do I think this is destructive? Because one or two things will happen. Either one, he will bottle his feelings. He'll put in the bottle, put the lid on it, close it tight, and leave it in there until either it blows or worse. When it's needed to be there, it won't be there. And this is the part I think is the issue. A person can bottle up their feelings, but there are times when that dominance is necessary, where that leadership, not dominance, the word dominance is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Where that leadership is necessary. The key word is leadership. Where that leadership is necessary, but because he's bottled it up, he can't manifest it.
No.
And the problem he will find is that as time goes on, as life goes on, certain outcomes will occur that he fundamentally will take responsibility for as the man, but it wasn't his fault. in the sense that he didn't. I mean, it is his fault for not putting his foot down, but it wasn't his decision. As in, maybe the family decides. Let's example of hijrah. He wants to make hijrah to Somalia to live a better life with the Muslimin. She says, no, I want to stay in the country. He bottles it up. He's like, okay, I'll be happy. 5 years later, 10 years later, kids are grown up. Kids are off the rails because they're in the society, bordering on kufr because he didn't put his foot down. That and he will recognize this. He might not say it, but he will recognize, if only I put my foot down, it wouldn't have happened that way. And that will eat away at him emotionally. I don't know how you do that. So that's something that a man needs to. He needs to. What's the word? Best way to put it will be, he needs to understand his role as a husband, as a leader, and he needs to enact that leadership. But being a leader doesn't equate to being a simp. In that terminology, meaning you can do things for others, and prioritize others over yourself, and still be a leader.
Yes, 100%.
And I think this is the line, the fine line that feminists and red pill don't understand as much. They think that you have to be a leader, you have to boss people around, you have to do what I want to do, and you can't say what I am.
You have to both be alphas, basically. You have to both be alpha males. The feminists want you to be an alpha male, and the red pill want you to be an alpha male. Like, everybody's got to be an alpha, everybody's got to be a leader.
Even this idea of being an alpha male, I mean, I think it's an exaggeration. It's the opposite side of what I'm saying. So you bottled something up, you let something there increase in pressure, now you're exploding onto the scene as an alpha male. Well, that's literally like I'm saying, that's literally an explosion of emotion, uncontrolled emotion and behavior. There's nothing wrong.
May I just say as well that all those feelings that have been bottled up, and the resentments, if you imagine, the blame, the guilt, the blame, the resentment, the anger, the hate, sometimes it's all been bottled up, festering. So when it comes out later, it's not going to come out the way it was 5-10 years ago. It's going to come out really vile.
That is actually a key word, actually. That it didn't cross my mind to mention it, but that is the key point here. When you bottle things up, you can, and most likely, grow resentment. And resentment, if it lands in the heart, is very difficult to remove. It takes a very long time. And the reason it takes a long time is because essentially, resentment is a symptom of abuse. Something people don't recognize. They think abuse is just, I got punched up. No, abuse could just simply mean every time I want to speak, I get shut down. That, for a man, can easily manifest as being abuse. I can't manifest my own view. I can't say what I want to do. I can't do that is abuse. Whether people acknowledge it or not, it is actually abuse. Abuse in the sense that he can't fulfill the role that Allah has given him. You've robbed him of that role. You've taken that away from him. And there's literally now, and that's why you find a lot of the Magta, they are framing, because this issue of frame, they are framing the marriage as though as women are just money extractors.
Yes,
they're just there to be the bank account.
Yes,
because they've been robbed of their leadership role, and that's all I am. I can't say where we live. I can't say what we do. I have I can't. All I do is go to work, come home, I give you a check.
Basically, yeah. The example you gave earlier, because I have very strong views on simping, very, very strong views on simping, but we can talk about that another time. But that situation in the street with the woman shouting and basically going off the rails, and the man making a decision to not engage and to walk away, I agree with you that his framing of what he did and his motivation really for why he did that will change, whether he feels great about himself or he feels really terrible. What I would say is, if that was my son, I would want to be sure that he spoke to her about it afterwards, and that you dealt with that situation, because that behavior is unacceptable. So if you allow, because we say this, when we're coaching women, people, and they say this in I mean, it's a thing. People will treat you as badly as you allow them to treat you, right? And you train other people how to treat you by what you accept. So I think a part of, a part of that leadership role and that masculinity is setting boundaries. But I think it's a human thing. I think human beings need to set boundaries, right? But as a man, there is a sense that, look, at the end of the day, I've been given this responsibility by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And which is very different to the whole alpha male conversation. This is a responsibility that has been given to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You chose me to be your husband, and you chose me to lead this family. Like, give me space to lead. Give me space to lead, because otherwise it's not going to work, you know? And I think we as women, certainly our generation and maybe the younger generations coming up, need to relearn what it means to have male authority, because really male authority is the big bad wolf when it comes to, you know, the kind of more feminist leaning society that we live in. You'll have Muslim sisters talking about the patriarchy, talking about misogyny, talking about male authority being oppressive, etc. And I'm like, oh, okay, how are you making that work within an Islamic framework, you know? And how is that going to show up in your marriage?
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is, and this is why I always highlight to people about that all Muslims, every single Muslim, especially living in the West, needs to seriously think about and even plan towards hijrah, because we don't recognize the full extent of how society is affecting us. And our discussion right here is a result of this. So the whole frame, for example, let me give an example. A lot of MGTOW, and even Red Pill sometimes, but MGTOW more specifically, they love to focus on how this woman doesn't get what she wants. She goes to divorce and cleans him out of half of his wealth, if not more of his wealth, and that kind of stuff. And that is, and in that statement, in that conversation, men resonate with that because they see it, or they experience it, or they not others experience it. But if you look at the problem here, is it because in MGTOW they associate that with being women? This is how women are. This is a woman thing, hypergamy, or whatever the case may be. Whatever they want to explain it to me, this is how women are. But what they fail to recognize is that this is only because the society allows that to happen.
Yeah.
As in, a human being, I mean, hadith, I just said this the other day to another one of us, said the hadith of Mr. Allah actually clarifies the human nature in this regards. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if it was down to the intention, if it was down to the whims and wills of people, then they would claim the blood of others and their wealth. But instead, the claimant, the onus of proof is upon the claimant, and the yameen, the qasam, is on the defendant. That what that hadith says, or the hadith is always used to establish the baseline for judgment. If you're going to make a claim, you need to have evidence. Right. Otherwise, we don't assume the person is guilty until proven innocent. It's innocent to be guilty. Yeah. What is often overlooked in that hadith was the nature of people. They will take as much as they can take. So if the law allows a woman to just take what she wants, she doesn't have to be a feminist to do so. It's just available to her.
It's a human thing.
It's available.
Like, I can get it. I'm going to get it. And I think I agree with you. It's definitely, I mean, this is one of the rebuttals in part to the red pill praxeology and the red pill frame. I think frame is probably the best way to say it. It is a red pill frame. It's red pill lens. Is that it is very much there is an ethnocentric bias, right? It is based on Western society, on sort of where we are now in Western society, the gynocentrism in the system, and you know what's happening with men, what's happening with women, the role of the family, and all of that is very, very much Western. However, I think one of the reasons why, unfortunately, that lens is making sense to men and women abroad is because that Western culture is being exported. And is being exported and is being picked up, especially the feminist angle, and maybe anti-family as well, through the movies, through Netflix, on social media, you know, and movements within those countries to actually transform those countries to become more modern, so-called modern, and more Westernized.
The feminist thing, the exporting of the feminist thing, I can't speak for women abroad or women entirely. I can only speculate as to what will be the appeal of feminism. And the only thing I can think of is women go to school, they get education, and the norm, the assumption will be that you would want to build on whatever you've learned upon. You build on whatever you spent years honing in your craft. And you're telling me that I must be just a mother and sit home and do nothing. I mean, I've had women say to me, I want to be more than a mother. And I think to myself, but what's more than that though?
Listen, have those 10 kids. You won't be talking about being more than no mother, okay? Yeah, that your cup will be full with those 10 children being a mother to them. But it's part of the education. It is part of the education. It's part of what we learn growing up, like you said. And everyone's learning the same thing now, so.
But also, I think, and also add to that, I think it's a lack of appreciation of what we have. Meaning, if you had a family, loads of siblings, strong, Eid is like a massive thing every single year.
Yeah.
You don't recognize that as being such an important thing because it's always been there. You've probably never lived a life where you never had that.
True.
I mean, I grew up in a very small family with me, my sister, a few aunties here. A lot of my family are either in Jamaica or in America. It was a small amount. So Christmas was like, it was no more than like 6 people, 7 people.
Wow.
Fast forward for 20 years. Now Eid, I kid you not, between me, my wife, my 8 kids, and her siblings, and their wives, and their kids, our Eid exceeds easily 30 people
Mashallah.
on the immediate family, not even extended.
Wow.
So I appreciate this. I understand this because I grew up not having that.
Yeah,
I can understand in Muslim countries, maybe they don't reckon. They think they can adopt. They think they can adopt Western ideals whilst keeping what they have, not realizing those ideals break what they have.
Yes.
Which is why I think that in countries like Saudi, there's a growing trend of misyah, where women are career women, they're moving forward, they haven't had kids, and now they're willing to be second wives, but waive all their rights as being a wife. The question is, how did she get there? How did you get to that whole discussion of misyah? Forget the fact of misyah being allowed or not allowed. How did a woman get to the stage where she's wavering her God-given rights that Allah has placed in the family in order to balance the relationship with the family? Why? How did she get here? Because she prioritized something else.
Yeah.
So I can see the appeal, I guess, of feminism, and that's what I'm saying, that some people need to recognize that the appeal of feminism, I guess, is similar to the appeal of red pill. There are factors in our environment that lead us down that road. They push us down that road.
Not only that, but I would say as well, and this is something that, it's upon me to mention because it is a conversation happening among sisters at the moment. I think for a generation of Muslims, maybe Gen X, maybe the older ones more so than the millennials, is that, feminism provided a lens, right? And if you'll hear people saying Islam is a feminist religion, for example, right? What they don't mean third wave feminism. They don't mean the actual feminism. They just mean for women's rights, because a lot of people are under the impression that feminism just means that you believe that women deserve equal rights, which is not the case. Feminism is a lot more nuanced than that, much, much more so. However, in a lot of our communities, the culture that has developed over the generations, I think has produced other than what we saw in the Seerah, other than what we see the Islamic ideal, right? Depending on the country, depending on the situation, you will see cultural practices that do oppress women, that do disregard women's rights blatantly, And I think in our time, some women felt that feminism was the answer to that. A feminist rereading of the Quran and all of this kind of thing, or just a feminist lens, as in I'm a woman, I won't be ashamed of being a woman, and all of this kind of thing, right? I think what's happened since, obviously, third wave feminism has taken the whole kind of world in a different direction, and that direction is an anti-male direction. It always was based on disdain to a certain extent, certainly sort of maybe disdain for men and maleness and masculinity and patriarchy and all of the things that men have done. But now we're in a state where it really is sort of anti-male, and the crazy thing is that while on the one hand men are not allowed to be masculine anymore because it's toxic and because they destroyed the world and they destroyed everything, and you know, when it was under them, the whole place was wrecked, right? But then the qualities that we are encouraging in young girls and in women are hardcore alpha male qualities, masculine qualities. So which is it? Is masculinity the standard that all women should be rising to and have the freedom to pursue? Or is masculinity dangerous? Is it something that is, you know, that should be curtailed? Or is it that women get to be masculine but men don't? It's a tough time.
I mean, I think, I mean, there's so many things that could be pinpointed as the source or the reason or why things are the way they are. But I think if you started with the feminist narrative and how they framed their narrative at the beginning, that was in reaction to how Christians treated women and how they treated and how they acted towards women, and also, I guess at some point, at some part of the history, this materialism and utilitarian view of each other came into view, in the sense that why, again, back to the issue of what are you trying to achieve in a marriage, what are you trying to build in a marriage? If it's all about just yourself and what I want, and I'm only interested in him for one thing and he's only interested in me in one thing, you end up sowing the seeds of contempt for the other. And this is where one brother made a very good point, very good channel called khairan. It's basically a channel focused on men, teaching men how to be leaders in their home. He mentioned about basically one of the roots of feminism and also red pill is Iblis. But not just Iblis, like how we say Iblis is the source of all evil and shirk and kufr, but specifically Iblisi doctrine, meaning we all know Iblis on his arsh, and his people come to him. What have you done? I did this. You ain't done nothing. What have you done? I done this. We ain't done nothing. What have you done? I split between a husband and wife. And he embraces him and says, you've done a great thing. You've done a great thing. So any ideology, this is what I saw, any ideology that seeks to build barriers between a man and a woman, and sow the seeds of contempt and hatred between man and woman, and suspicion, these are Iblisi traits set in stone from these people, these shayateen, who seek to break between the two. So any ideology, for example, if you're a feminist and you say that men are X, that men are like that, and any kind of negative view towards the man, that's already sowing the seeds of contempt.
Yeah, for sure.
And likewise, women are hypergamous. All they want is money. All they want is the bigger child. And then again, sowing the seeds of contempt and hatred. Once you sow those seeds, even though your fitra is still there, as in you still want to have a relationship with the opposite and you still want to whatever, because the seed of contempt is already there, you've already sabotaged that relationship. You can't really build anything because the seed of hatred and contempt is already there. And that's one of the biggest issues why I feel red pill fail to recognize it. They say, oh, this is to prevent divorce, or this is to help people to stay together by everyone having their roles, but you don't realize that you're framing the other in such a way that it's almost impossible to maintain any level of real love or deep love if you just view your wife as someone who's just going to monkey branch to someone else, or just going to leave you so you have no more money or whatnot.
That stuff is dangerous. That stuff is really dangerous. And the thing is, I just want to jump in here, because the thing is that monkey branch idea and the Giga Chad and all that kind of thing, because obviously these ideas are spreading. I actually had a conversation with a young man in Zimbabwe who is 17. He's at school, he goes to a boys' school, and he's ranting and raving about women and how women, basically are, the hypergamy, about how, what's the point of becoming a beta male provider so she can monkey branch off to the next alpha and da-da-da. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is Zimbabwe, Harare. Like, what are you, what are you saying? This is not a reality in your context. Maybe it happens for some people out there in that world, but that's not your world. That's not your reality. And that frame is going to, it's like his mum said to me, she said, I'm worried about what he's consuming online, because the things that he's saying, firstly, as a woman in this cultural context, I don't know what he's talking about. who are these people? Who are these women that he's referring to? Could be a generational thing as well, because obviously she's older, she doesn't know what the young girls are like. But he said to me, the girls in our town talk like those girls on the videos, on those girls on TikTok, those girls that's exactly what they say. Oh, I need to secure the bag. I don't want anybody who has less than I deserve a what, and all of that. So it's seeping out in the worst way. It is a reactionary principle. I agree with you.
But I don't say that it's reactionary unjustified. I mean, there are some.
It's justified reaction, but it's still a reaction. But it's really happening, isn't it? I think that's the problem. It's not some made up. It's not a bogeyman. I think the dynamics between men and women in the world out there are a reality, and this ideology or praxeology or just lens has come as a reaction to what's happening on the ground. But then, go on.
No, go on.
I wonder, because I've watched some of Kawaman's videos, and I've also heard brothers who kind of are, shall we say, post red pill, not anti, but post red pill, which I think is an important place to be. I think as a Muslim, one of the brothers on the Three Muslims said that. He said, look, I came in through red pill. It woke me up out of a lot of my conditioning. It woke me up out to a lot of realities about the world that I live in, as opposed to the fairy tale that I believed before. So I feel I needed that. But then Islam took me a step further. And Islam took me into a space where I could now be comfortable in my masculinity without hating women. I could be comfortable in my role as provider without feeling like a beta male provider. You know what I mean? It allowed me to level set, which I thought was a very, very insightful thing that he said.
Yes, that is a very important point, because I was actually going to say that before you mentioned it, that as Muslims, as we discuss these things, this is where we ultimately need to go. We need to always bring our worldview, our behavior, our reaction, and our framing in the lens of Al-Islam. If you try and frame it in put in the lens of Rollo Tomasi or any other people like that, you're only going to interpret things in that way. And this is the danger, because sometimes you may interpret innocent behavior in that this person's feminist, this person this person is a misogynist, or this person like that. For example,
we all do it.
Give an example. It's a scenario everyone can appreciate. There's a dad. He's got a daughter. She wants to go to university. He's like, no. She's like, why not? So, but I don't feel safe for you going in that environment and blah, 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 blah. Down with the patriarchy. How can you prevent me doing this? This is education, and women deserve education, and blah, blah, blah. Now, you can frame it that he's being oppressive to you, or you can frame it that he's actually genuinely concerned to you.
Yeah. 100%.
How you manage and deal with that and react to that is something else. But the point is that in the original frame, does he really care about you getting education? Is he saying, no, I want you dumb? Or is he actually concerned that if you go to university, I know what university is like. I know how the girls behave. I know how the boys behave. I know what they're talking about. I don't need to be exposed to that kind of stuff. That's a different conversation. That is not patriarchy. And that's not dumb. That is a completely different conversation. But how did you frame that? My dad he's so backwards. He doesn't understand modern law. He doesn't understand you know what I'm saying? So same thing with red pill. You can have, if you absorb all of their doctrine and all of their ideologies and their explanations, because this is why I say that this ideology is a dangerous one, is because they'll give you scenarios that we all know, we all experience, we all see, but then they'll frame it,
of course,
in a way which makes sense, but it's wrong. So, for example, the issue of hypergamy, almost a high value man, that kind of stuff. Maybe it's not the issue of high value. Maybe she just wants security. She doesn't want to be the case where she's got 3 kids, 4 kids, and she's struggling to find food. Maybe that's all her only concern. Maybe she doesn't want a Brad Pitt or Elon Musk or someone who's a multi-rich person. She just wants to know that when I open the fridge, there's food in it. That's all she cares about. It's not to do with hypergamy, or that's all she wants. She's not treating you like a bank account. She doesn't want to find herself in a situation that others have, where she's got kids and she's now on the dole and she's stuck. Or this, you know what I'm saying? There's so many ways in which you can explain her actions.
Yeah.
But when you have a minimalist view where you view the world as just what Rollo Tomasi says and how he sees it, then that's a problem. And then that it becomes a cycle. She does this, or because of that. She does this, or because of that. And that now etches away at the relationship until eventually it's like, oh, you know what? I don't want you because you're a feminist. She's not a feminist. It's because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, brother. Or, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things that could be said. So again, Islam is, I know it's a kind of like a obvious thing. Obviously, Islam is our answer, obviously. But it means that. It means as us, as Muslims, we need to start engaging more with the Seerah, reading how the companions lived, how they breathed, how they got married, how they got divorced, what things happened, what things didn't happen. I mean, just one scenario, just for those who might be thinking about some, you mentioned about like feminism. As an example of empowerment of women, there was one woman at the time, Messenger of Allah called Barira, and she was a slave. She was purchased by Aisha and freed. So Aisha bought her to free her, as you do as a Muslim. You buy slaves and you might free them. So she freed Barira. Now Barira was also married to another Sahabi. He was also a slave. So there were two slaves, and they were married. So when she was freed, as the Sharia dictates, she has the option of walking away from the marriage, and she walked away. So this became a thing in the village in Medina. I mean, everyone knew her husband, and everyone saw him and how devastated he was. He was devastated. His wife left him. So the Messenger of Allah said to her, "Have you seen?"
He's the one crying in the marketplace. Was he the one crying in the marketplace, and he's? Oh, okay, please. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm not sure.
I got a light bulb moment. Right. Please, I'm so sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
I don't know about how they knew he was upset, but I know that everyone knew.
Right.
He was upset. So he said to her, "Have you seen so and so and how upset he is that you've left him? Would you consider taking him back?" And she said, "Is this an order, O Messenger of Allah, or are you advising me?"
Yeah.
So I'm telling you advice. And she said, "No, I don't want him." And that was the end of it. Now, if it was the case of oppression, that women have to be owned by men and dominated by men, it would be like, look, Barira, he's upset. Go back to him.
Yeah.
Go and serve him. Do this, do that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was a case of you have the choice because you have the rights. And these are rights given to women way back in the day.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we would never know this unless you've studied the Seerah, unless you've studied Islam, unless you've made effort to educate yourself about Islam. And this is what I'm saying. And this is where the trap is this. Women who fall into feminism, and I mean real feminism, and men who fall into MGTOW or Red Pill, they do so primarily due to ignorance of what Islam or what the Islamic model should be, or what even looks like. If you want to know what it looks like, look at how it was implemented back then. Just go back and look at how they behaved. Did the Sahaba have arguments with their wives? Did the wives get upset with their husbands? Did they mention? I mean, look at this. The one example is a funny one, and another issue of framing as well, where a woman came to Messenger and was like, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, my husband is oppressive. He's not what he's supposed to be. Why? What's gone wrong? When I pray, he stops me from praying. Oh, that sounds bad. When I fast, he stops me from fasting. Oh my days. And what was that the third one? And he doesn't pray Fajr in the masjid. I mean, what kind of man is this? His wife wants to pray, she can't pray. She wants to fast, she can't fast. And he doesn't pray in the masjid? A'udhu billah. Sounds like a fasiq. Messenger brought him forward. What's the issue? What's going on, my friend? Yeah. She said that she didn't allow you don't allow to pray. Oh, Messenger of Allah, I am a young man, a shab. And she prays all the time. Baqarah, Ali Imran. I'm sitting there waiting for attention, and all she's doing is salah. So I told her to stop. So it's not that she can't pray her salah, but that's just that she's doing it all the time. She's neglecting his rights. Okay, what about the fasting then? Why are you stopping her from fasting? Ya Rasulullah, every day? Kul yawm? Every day she's fasting? I have desires. I mean, what do you want to do? Okay, what about the Fajr? Why not praying Fajr in the masjid? I mean, you explain to others, what about the Fajr? Well, when you guys make your wudu with the wudu water, me and a few others, we are the ones who go to the well down the road and bring the water up. So we're the one who brings you the water. By the time that happens, we're knackered. So I pray and go to sleep. Okay, you've explained yourself. So we can already see from that one scenario how sometimes a woman can frame her husband and make him look like a villain. He's a narcissist. He's this. Doesn't look after the kids.
Oh, he's definitely
he's never at home. So it's not like it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Everything that we have today is old. But how do you deal with that? Did that guy who his wife complained about him, did he say, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, she's a feminist, I want to get rid of her, talaq, get rid of her, find another woman who is more obedient and more this and more"? No, they explained themselves and they continued married. As far as we know, that nothing, they never got divorced. It was just the issue I was mentioning, and they got on with it.
No, when you look at the Seerah, subhanAllah, it's for me, it's just the humanity of it, and how real the people were. And I guess if you want, I laugh about this because sisters who are kind of pro women or kind of coming from a more let's say more female centered space will bring examples of the Seerah to back up their ideas. Similarly, the brothers coming from the pro male space, they do exactly the same. They bring examples from the Seerah. It's all true, right? Because there were dominant men in the time of the Seerah. There were strong women in the time of the Seerah. There were unhappy husbands. There were unhappy wives. There were people who stayed together through thick and thin. There's people who got divorced multiple times. There's people who married the virgin and married the divorcee. So it's the Seerah is this rich place, subhanAllah, for us to be able to just study the dynamics of Muslims at work. And we could definitely have another conversation about this because I have so many questions actually just based on the Seerah, subhanAllah, about divorce, about custody, about choosing spouses, because obviously in this male-female space, marriage is a big thing. How to choose your spouse, second, third marriages, polygamy, all of that is still we're still having conversations about. So maybe we'll have to have another one, because what I would love to just talk about is the big issues that we're discussing now, the tough questions. What was happening in the Seerah? How are things going down in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? So maybe we'll have to have another episode where we talk about that, inshallah. But tell us a little bit about your work, inshallah, before we wrap up.
Just before that, because you mentioned something, I just wanted to add to what you just said there about when you mentioned that sisters, they talk about things in the Seerah that support the feminine narrative, and they have the brothers mention things that support the male narrative. And I think that action in and of itself kind of summarizes our whole discussion so far, if you think about it. Because essentially, we are trying to discuss and explore how men and women can live successful, happy, meaningful lives with each other. But yet, we haven't really addressed the issue or the question of what are you doing for the other? You're more concerned about your own party, and it reminds me of the Seerah, the Messenger of Allah, when they had the issue between the Ansar and Muhajirin, and the first thing happened, Muhajirin, who come and support the Muhajirin, and they said, Ansar, come and support that. Everyone called to their side, and the Messenger of Allah said, "This is natina. This is disgusting. Leave this." As in, leave this da'wah of jahiliyyah, this da'wah of ignorance, of calling sides. We're supporting our side, you're supporting our side. The whole premise of a marriage is that you are now looking at the other person's wants, not your own wants. If you go into a marriage on that premise that I'm only going to focus on what I want, and I want this, and I want that, then you're starting off on a bad foot, basically. And that'll be a good way to conclude that point there, is that basically that's it. You find problems happen when that is the way you behave. Me, or in the same Arabic, ananiya, is just ana, me, myself, and I. That's not how it is. And that's essentially how Kuffar frame it. They always frame it in that way. Even like Kevin Samuels says to women all the time, what do you offer to the man? As in, he's trying to say to them, look, stop looking at what you want. Look at the other. Likewise for men, look at what you can do for her. If you are working for each other, then eventually you would work together. But if you just say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, then But anyway, what you saying? The question was about what I do?
The work, yes. So the work that you do, how people can find out more about the survey. Definitely get on the Instagram, guys. Go and look at it. It's in the highlights. Very interesting.
The survey was an interesting one because that was done in, I would say, the time when I was more actually influenced by, I would say, red pill ideas. And as I've explored those ideas a bit further and whatnot, my latest video I did was actually talking about red pill, which is like it's a 7-part series about red pill ideology and about Makta specifically.
Wow.
So if someone wants to look at that Instagram thing, they also need to balance it out with what I said after, because I haven't put them two together yet.
Yes.
I'm going to be putting one on the other, but essentially what I do is nothing to do with our discussion. I'm primarily an Arabic and Islamic studies teacher. So I graduated from the Islamic University of Medina some decades ago, and essentially I've just been teaching since then. So we have an Islamic institute in Leighton, London, and it's a charity organization. So we basically just do madrasa and normal educational stuff. And essentially, I mean, what I end up doing by proxy of being who I am, people call me up for, you know, help in marriage and divorce and this kind of stuff, and fatwa and inheritance, and I'm basically just deal with that really. And that's essentially what I do. But outside of that, you know, it's just basically about helping people better their situation, especially financially. So I try and also help people and educate them about Bitcoin and other stuff like that. So that's basically what I do. Various different things revolving around education, and you could say counseling, but not officially a counselor.
MashaAllah. jazakAllahu khair. Guys, we're going to link to all of those resources in the description, inshallah. But Brother Muawiyah, it's been really, really great to have this conversation with you. It's been fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground. I think there's still more. I think for me as an individual kind of seeker, it's always fascinating to speak with people who've studied the deen and who are kind of up to date with what's happening in the world. So having conversations with people who have Islamic knowledge and are working in the world. So maybe they're counselors or they're imams or they're teaching, or they're just connected with modern day issues. Because I think one of the things that we're suffering from right now is people consider Islamic knowledge to be one thing, and then knowledge of the dunya and the dunya itself is something completely different. And very few of us have the ability to apply little Islamic knowledge that we have to the dunya and use what we have to make sense of the dunya. Because I believe that Islam and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us and how he trains us as Muslims is the only way that makes the dunya make sense. Otherwise the dunya is just this crazy place. Subhanallah. So it's been really, really refreshing having this conversation with you. We will link to everything in the description, but may Allah reward you, bless your family, inshallah, soon to be a tribe of 10 with 10 each bi'idhnillah, and may Allah reward you for your time and bless everybody here, inshallah, and everybody else. I will see you on the next episode, inshallah. Subhanak Allahumma rabbana bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, wa astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan.